My entire family skipped my wedding, claiming they got the date mixed up. That night, I saw photos of them at my brother's golf tournament. A week later, my father called asking for a life-altering sum of money. He never saw my response coming. This is where the story truly begins, and you won't want to miss what happens. Make sure you're subscribed to see it through to the end. We're always curious. Where in the world are you all watching from today? Let us know in the comments. The fabric of my wedding dress felt like armor, but it couldn't stop the tremor in my hands. I was standing in the small bridal suite of the historic venue, a room of polished wood and velvet chairs, listening to the muffled sounds of our string quartet tuning up downstairs. I should have been ecstatic. I was 32 years old, a clinical pharmacist with a career I'd painstakingly built, and I was about to marry Michael, the kindest, most logical man I had ever known. Instead, I felt like I was about to be sick. "They're just running late, Lucy," my maid of honor, Sarah, said, misting my hair with one last cloud of hairspray. "You know how your family is. Your dad probably lost his keys, and your mom is probably re-ironing his shirt." I forced a smile that felt brittle. "You're right, of course." But my stomach knew better. I had sent the digital save-the-dates a year ago, the engraved invitations 6 months ago. I had called my mother, Susan, just last week to confirm the rehearsal dinner details. My brother, Leo, had joked about whether he'd get to object, and my father, Richard, had promised me the first dance. They had all RSVP'd yes. They were supposed to be in the front pew, the one reserved for the people who, in theory, loved you the most. The door creaked open, and it wasn't my planner. It was Michael. My husband-to-be, looking devastatingly handsome in his tuxedo, his face a mask of pale, unfamiliar anger. "Michael," Sarah gasped, "it's bad luck." "It doesn't matter," Michael said, his voice flat. He walked straight to me, ignoring everyone else, and took both of my trembling hands in his. His were so warm. "Lucy, they're not here." The string quartet started to play, a soft, hopeful melody. "What do you mean?" I whispered, though I already knew. "Are they in the car? Did they get stuck in traffic?" "I mean they're not here," he repeated, his eyes locking on mine, holding me steady. "I called your dad. It went to voicemail. I called your mom. Voicemail. I even tried Leo. Nothing. The ceremony starts in 5 minutes. The guests are seated. Lucy, they're not coming." The air left the room. It felt like a physical blow, a sudden, sharp pressure in my chest. "No," I said, that can't be right. There must be a mistake, a car accident, something must have happened." A horrible, selfish part of me almost hoped for a minor, non-lethal accident. It was the only explanation that wouldn't shatter me. As if summoned by the thought, my phone, which I'd left on the vanity, lit up. A text message from my mother. My hands were shaking so badly, Michael had to hold the phone for me. It read, "Oh, honey, we are so sorry. We completely got the date mixed up. We thought it was next Saturday. Feeling just awful. We'll make it up to you. Have a wonderful day." Have a wonderful day. The words hung in the air, so absurd, so colossally inadequate that I almost laughed. Next Saturday. A full year of planning. A dozen confirmation calls. A rehearsal dinner they attended just 2 nights ago. The lie was so lazy, so insulting, it was almost more painful than the truth. "I don't understand," I said, my voice a hollow echo of itself. "That doesn't make any sense." Michael's face hardened. He understood perfectly. He had been on the sidelines of my family's dynamic for 3 years, watching me be the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who showed up. And watching them, not. "Lucy," he said, his voice low and firm. We can call this off. We can postpone. I will walk downstairs and send every single person home. I am not marrying you like this, not if you're not ready. I looked at him. This wonderful man who was willing to cancel his own wedding right this second just for me. And then I looked past him in the mirror at the woman in the white dress. I saw the years of quiet disappointment. My 21st birthday, when my parents forgot because Leo had a crisis, he'd lost his wallet. My pharmacy school graduation, which they'd left early to take Leo to a concert. The thousands of dollars I'd loaned them for his failed ventures. Money I'd saved for a house. Money I knew I'd never see again. They had always chosen him. Today was just the most public, most brutal confirmation. A cold, sharp clarity cut through the fog of my pain. I stood up straight. The armor of the dress suddenly fit. No, I said. My voice was no longer trembling. It was cold. We are not postponing. I am not letting them take this, too. Oh, I am not letting them ruin this day. I turned to Sarah. Fix my mascara. I walked down that aisle on my own. I held my head high, my eyes fixed on Michael. But with every step, my heart catalogued the void. The path I walked was lined with friends, with Michael's warm and loving family who had all flown in. But as I reached the front, I couldn't ignore it. The gaping, empty front pew. A physical monument to all the love I'd given and never, ever gotten back. I said I do to the man I loved. I meant every word. But the betrayal was so profound, it felt like a separate, silent vow. I was done. I was done being their afterthought. I was done being the next Saturday girl. We skipped the grand reception entrance. After the ceremony, after I had kissed Michael and been pronounced his wife, after I had walked back down the aisle, I just needed a moment. We ducked into a small library off the main hall. Lucy, talk to me, Michael said, pulling me close. I'm fine, I lied. I'm happy, I'm with you, it's fine. They're your family, he said, his voice laced with a fury I appreciated. It is not fine, that text. Got the date mixed up. Who do they think you are? They think I'm the one who will just take it, I whispered, the truth of it landing hard. I'm the one who always understands, the responsible one, the boring one. He tilted my chin up. You are the most incredible person I know, and they are. I have a lot of names for them right now. He took a deep breath. But for the next 4 hours, we are going to dance. We are going to eat that expensive cake. We are going to celebrate with the people who did show up. And we are not going to let them have one more second of this day. Do you hear me? I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. I hear you. And we did. I danced with Michael. I danced with his father. I laughed at his brother's terrible best man speech. I hugged my friends. I drank the champagne. And for a few hours, I was just a bride. But every time I smiled for a photo, I could feel the invisible hole where my family was supposed to be. Later that night, in the bridal suite of a downtown hotel, the adrenaline finally faded, leaving behind a raw, aching exhaustion. Michael was asleep, one arm slung over me, his breathing deep and even. But I was wide awake, the high collar of my dress long gone, replaced by a simple hotel robe. My phone was on the nightstand where I'd thrown it. It was buzzing. I'd put it on silent, but I could feel the vibration. More apologies, more lazy excuses. I picked it up. 22 missed calls, all from my mother, a dozen texts. Lucy, honey, please pick up. I feel just terrible. We are so sorry. It's all my fault. I put it in the calendar wrong. Your father is devastated. Leo feels awful. I snorted. Leo hadn't felt awful about anything a day in his life. I tried calling my mom back, straight to voicemail. I tried my dad. Voicemail. I sent Leo a single text, "Where were you?" No response. The silence was louder than their fake apologies. I put the phone down, my head throbbing. I was about to turn it off for the night, maybe for the rest of my life, when a new notification popped up. It wasn't a text. It was an Instagram tag. A friend from my hometown, someone I hadn't seen in years, had tagged me in a photo. My thumb moved on its own. The app opened. The photo was bright, outdoors, and garish. My mother, Susan, was in a bright pink sundress, beaming. My father, Richard, had his arms slung around my brother, Leo, and Leo was in the center, wearing ridiculous plaid golf pants, grinning from ear to ear and holding a cheap-looking, gold-plated trophy. They were standing on a manicured green under a large banner that read, 14th Annual Pin-High Invitational. The caption from my hometown friend read, "Look at our local boy Leo. So proud of him, and great to see Richard and Susan out supporting." I zoomed in, the trophy in Leo's hand, the smiles, the bright, unforgiving sunshine, and then I saw the timestamp on the post. 3:15 p.m. 15 minutes after my wedding ceremony had started. The lie wasn't just lazy, it was monstrous. They hadn't mixed up the date. They had received 2 invitations, 2 events on the same day. One, the wedding of their only daughter. The other, the 14th Annual Pin-High Invitational for their golden boy son. And they had made their choice. I think I stopped breathing. The hotel room, so full of flowers and leftover champagne, suddenly felt like a tomb. I looked at the photo until my eyes burned. My mother, who had felt terrible, looked ecstatic. My father, who was devastated, was clapping. And Leo, he was the center of their universe. A cold, hard clarity, even sharper than the one I'd felt in the bridal suite, settled over me. I wasn't just sad anymore. I was done being sad. Sadness was a privilege I could no longer afford. I thought of my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, G. Rams, a woman who had seen everything. She had seen my mother's obsession with Leo, my father's weak-willed enabling. Grams was the one who had paid for my pharmacy school application fees, who had called me every week. Before she died, she had pulled me into her room, her hand, thin and papery, gripping mine. "You're the only one with a good head on your shoulders, Lucy," she'd whispered, her voice still sharp. "Don't let them squander it. I'm trusting you." I looked at Michael, my husband, sleeping peacefully. I looked at the picture of my smiling, treacherous family, and I thought about my grandmother. "They forgot about Grams," I whispered into the dark. I said nothing. I didn't reply to the texts. I didn't answer the calls. I deleted the photo, blocked my friend who had tagged me, and turned off my phone. Michael and I were leaving for our honeymoon in Italy in the morning. I was going to enjoy it. But I knew, with a certainty that settled deep in my bones, that a reckoning was coming. They had forgotten the most important thing. They had forgotten what Grams had left me. They had forgotten that I was the one, the only one, who held the key. The Amalfi Coast is supposed to be healing. For 7 days, I did my best to let it be. Michael and I ate pasta, drank wine, and explored ruins. He was a buffer of kindness, pretending not to notice when I'd stare blankly at the beautiful, sparkling Mediterranean, my mind 1,000 miles away, stuck in that empty front pew. He gave me space, and I loved him for it. But in that space, the memories flooded in. They were the ghosts at our romantic, candlelit dinners. I remembered my 21st birthday. I was in college, pre-pharmacy, drowning in organic chemistry. My parents were supposed to drive up, take me to dinner. I waited in my dorm room for 3 hours. When I finally got my mom on the phone, she was breathless. "Oh, honey, we're so sorry. Leo, he had a little crisis. We're at the police station." A little crisis. He had been arrested for a DUI. My 21st birthday was spent alone in my room, eating ramen, while they bailated him out and co-signed for the lawyer. I remembered my pharmacy school graduation, a doctorate. I was the first in our family. They came, but they sat in the back. They didn't even stay for the reception. "We have to get back, Lucy," my dad had said, checking his watch. "Leo has a big opportunity and we're driving him to a networking event in the city." I later found out the networking event was a music festival. He had dropped out of his third community college that semester. And then there was the money, the endless, seeping drain of money. Leo was an entrepreneur, a visionary, a brand ambassador. My personal favorite was his influencer career. This consisted of him taking artful photos of lattes, expensive sneakers, bought with my parents' credit card, and himself golfing, always golfing. He posted these with vague, inspirational captions like "The grind never stops" and "Create your own destiny." His destinies were expensive. First, it was the luxury t-shirt line. He needed $5,000 for a printing press. Then it was the specialty keto-friendly energy drink. That one was $10,000 for initial bottling. I, fresh out of school and finally making a good salary, was the one they'd loaned from. "Just until Leo's first big check comes in, Lucy," my mom had promised, her hand on my arm. "You know he'd do the same for you." The check never came. I never saw a dime. And I knew with bitter certainty that Leo would not, in fact, do the same for me. Leo wouldn't even text me. My parents were the architects of this monster. My mother, Susan, a part-time real estate agent, was obsessed with appearances. She loved the idea of a successful son. "Leo is consulting for a new lifestyle brand," she'd tell her friends, her voice dripping with pride. She never mentioned that the brand was just an Instagram account with 800 followers. My father, Richard, retired from a mid-level management job, was the silent enabler. He was so terrified of Leo's moods, so desperate for his son's elusive approval that he just signed. He signed the loans. He co-signed the car lease. He was sinking his entire pension, his entire life savings, into the black hole of Leo's potential. And I was the boring one, the safe one. "Oh, that's just Lucy," my mom would say. "She's so practical, she'll be fine." I wasn't a visionary. I was just a pharmacist. I just saved people's lives with precise, boring mathematical calculations. I was the one who managed my grandmother's end-of-life care, crushing her pills, managing her IV drips, while my parents were too stressed dealing with Leo's latest breakup. Grams saw it all, and Grams had been practical too. My grandmother, my mother's mother, had come from old money, not flashy, but deep. She'd lived in the same modest house for 50 years, drove the same Buick, and never trusted my fat. When she passed away, my mother had been vibrating with anticipation. She assumed she was inheriting everything. The will reading had been a scene I would cherish forever. The lawyer, Tom, a dry, serious man, had read the will. The house went to a local charity. Her personal effects were divided, and the bulk of her estate, a significant trust fund, was to be managed by me. "What?" Susan had shrieked, literally rising from her chair. "She's just a child. I'm her daughter." "Your mother was very specific, Susan," Tom had said, not looking up. "The trust is to be managed by Lucy. She is the sole trustee. The funds are to be used at her sole discretion for the health, education, and prudent advancement of the family. Those were her words. Prudent advancement. The car ride home had been silent. My mother hadn't spoken to me for a month, but soon the request started. Gently at first. "Lucy, honey, your dad and I were thinking of updating the kitchen. That's a prudent advancement for the house, right? And then Leo needs a new laptop for his business. That's education, isn't it?" I had held firm just as Grams had taught me. I'd set up a small, managed fund for my parents' retirement, a token amount, but I had refused, time and time again, to fund Leo's fantasies. It had been a quiet, simmering war for years. Now, sitting on that terrace in Amalfi, sipping a limoncello, it all clicked into place. That golf tournament, it wasn't just a casual game, it must have been something big, something Leo had promised them. A sponsorship, a big break, the 14th annual Pin High Invitational. I was a pharmacist. I was trained to see patterns, and this one was screaming at me. They had chosen to go to that tournament, believing it was the winning ticket. They had bet everything on Leo. "They forgot about Grams," I said to Michael as we watched the sunset. "What about her, honey? They forgot I'm the one holding the checkbook." A cold, hard resolve settled into my heart, and I think they're going to be asking for it very, very soon. We returned from Italy. The tans faded, and the realities of life clicked back in. I went back to the hospital, back to the precise, orderly world of dosages and protocols. It was a comfort. I hadn't spoken to my family in 2 weeks. The calls and texts from my mother had slowed, then stopped. They were clearly giving me the silent treatment, a classic Susan move, meant to make me feel guilty and come crawling back, begging for forgiveness. It wasn't working. The silence was a balm. Michael and I settled into our new life as a married couple. We unpacked our wedding gifts, wrote thank you notes, and looked for a new apartment. I felt peaceful. Then, a week after our return, my work phone rang. It was an external number I didn't recognize. I was in the middle of verifying a complex chemotherapy order, so I almost let it go to voicemail. But a small, professional nudge made me pick up. "This is Dr. Harrison," I said, my voice clipped and professional. Lucy, is that you?" The voice was thin, reedy, panicked. It was my father, Richard. "Dad," I said, stepping into a private consultation room. "How did you get this number?" "Your mother." She looked it up. "The hospital directory. Lucy, thank God, you're not answering your phone. You're not answering your mother." "I've been busy," I said, my voice flat. I leaned against the cool tile wall. "We just got back. How can I help you, Dad?" The shift from "how was the wedding" to "how can I help you" was not lost on me. He didn't even bother with the pleasantries. He didn't apologize. He didn't ask about Italy. The panic was rolling off him in waves. "We're in trouble, Lucy," he blurted out, his voice cracking. "Bad trouble. It's Leo." Of course it was. "What about Leo?" I asked, checking my watch. "His business. The influencer thing. It wasn't. There were some partners, some investors, and, Lucy, they're not good people." I stayed silent. I let him talk. The story tumbled out, a pathetic, predictable mess. Leo, in his infinite wisdom, hadn't just been taking loans from me and my parents. He'd been taking investments from predatory lenders. He'd co-signed with my father, using their house, the house I grew up in, as collateral. He'd apparently guaranteed them a 200% return, which of course never materialized. Now the lenders were calling. They were suing. They weren't just suing Leo, they were suing my father. They had initiated foreclosure proceedings on the house. "They're going to take everything, Lucy," my father wept into the phone. "The house, my pension, we're going to be homeless. Your mother, she's a wreck. She hasn't gotten out of bed." "Here it comes," I thought, the pivot. "We need your help," he whispered. We need you to release the funds from your grandmother's trust. It's for the good of the family, remember?" That's what she said. "This is a family emergency, Lucy. You have to help us." The victim was gone. The pharmacist, the trustee, the woman who had been publicly humiliated on her wedding day was all that remained. "Dad," I said, my voice so cold it surprised me, "I'm at work." This was the line. The moment the title of my life story flashed, I had cut him off. "Work," he sputtered. "Work? Lucy, are you listening to me? I'm talking about our home, your brother. He could go to jail." "I heard you," I said. My hand was perfectly steady. The tremor was gone. "The trust my grandmother left is for prudent advancement. That's the legal term. What you're describing sounds like the opposite of prudent. It sounds like you're asking me to use a protected fund to cover fraudulent debts." "Fraudulent? It's not fraudulent. It was just a bad investment, a mistake." "Was it a mistake, Dad, or was it a choice?" I asked, the question hanging in the sterile air. "Was it like getting the date mixed up?" He was silent. For the first time, he was silent. He had no lie ready. "That's not fair, Lucy," he finally whispered. "No," I said, "it's not." I took a breath. "Here is what is going to happen. I am the sole trustee. As such, I have a fiduciary duty. I will not be releasing any funds based on a hysterical phone call. If you want me to even consider this, you will have your lawyer. If you even have one, send all relevant documents to my lawyer." "Your lawyer?" "Yes, Dad, my lawyer. The one who manages the trust. His name is Tom. Your mother has his number. Have your lawyer send him the loan agreements, the collateral documents, and the lawsuit you've been served with. I will not be speaking to you, or Mom, or Leo about this again. Is that clear?" He was sobbing now, a wet, gasping sound that should have broken my heart. It didn't. "Lucy, please, you're my daughter, and you're my father. You were supposed to walk me down the aisle. You chose to go to a golf tournament instead." I hung up. I didn't feel relief. I didn't feel anger. I felt nothing, a cold, clean, professional calm. My victim phase was over. My strategist phase had just begun. I immediately called Tom, the trust lawyer. "Hi, Tom, it's Lucy Harrison. We spoke a few years ago." "Lucy, congratulations on your marriage. I heard the good news," he said warmly. "Thank you, Tom. Listen, it's happening, just like my grandmother said it would. You're about to get a request from my father, Richard. They're in legal trouble and they want the trust to bail them out." There was a sigh on the other end. "I was afraid of this. Your grandmother was a very wise woman. She put the prudent clause in there for a reason." "I'm not just calling to warn you," I said. "I'm calling to hire you, and I want to hire a forensic accountant. I'm not releasing a single cent. I want you to find out exactly what they've done. I want every cosign loan, every credit card, every bad check. I want to know the full extent of the mess. I want to build a case." "A case? For what? To protect the trust?" "Yes," I said. And to protect myself, they made their choice. Now I'm making mine. The next week was a masterclass in panic. My mother, realizing her hysterical calls were being ignored, tried a new tactic: love bombing. I received texts with old family photos. "Remember this, sweetie? We've always been so proud of you." I received emails from new, unfamiliar accounts. "Lucy, I'm booking a spa day for us. Just mother and daughter. We need to reconnect." I deleted them all. Meanwhile, my team, my lawyer, Tom, and the forensic accountant, a sharp woman named Maria, was working. Maria, in particular, was a miracle. She dove into the tangled mess of my father's and Leo's finances with a terrifying, surgical glee. My father, desperate, had apparently forced his lawyer to send over the initial lawsuit documents. It was as bad as he'd said. The predatory lenders were not messing around. They had liens on the house, the cars, and my father's pension. Then Maria found the other things. "This is creative," Maria said on our conference call. "It's not just the one loan, Lucy. Your brother got your father to co-sign on 6 high-interest credit cards, all in the last year, all maxed out. We're talking another $60,000. I felt my stomach clench. "Where did it go?" "That's the creative part," she said. "He's been funneling it. Small-time crypto wallets, a lifestyle brand that seems to only sell to itself. And I'm seeing a lot of charges from high-end golf resorts, and a lease on a new sports car." "So, no business at all," I said. "The business is the fraud," Maria corrected. "He's been using your father's good credit and retirement as his personal slush fund. And your father, he just kept signing." I scheduled the meeting, not at a home, not at a restaurant, at Tom's office. A boardroom, clinical, safe. I told my parents it was to discuss the release of the funds. They agreed immediately. I walked in with Michael. He'd taken the day off. He sat beside me, not as a participant, but as a silent, solid wall of support. My parents, Richard and Susan, were already there. They looked terrible. My father looked like he'd aged 10 years. My mother was wearing her most expensive-looking real estate blazer, but her eyes were puffy and red. Leo, predictably, was not there. "He was just too stressed," my mom began. "He sends his love." "Let's not," I said, sitting down. "Tom, thank you for arranging this." Tom, my lawyer, sat at the head of the table, a thick binder in front of him. "Richard, Susan," Tom began, his voice all business. "We have reviewed the documents you sent over regarding the lawsuit from Apex lenders." "Yes, so you see," Susan burst in, her voice artificially bright. "It's just a simple business misunderstanding. If Lucy can just, write the check, we can make this all go away. For the good of the family." I let her finish, then I slid a separate, thinner folder across the table. "This," I said, "is from my accountant." Susan's smile wavered. Richard, who had been staring at the table, looked up. "What is that?" Richard asked. "That," I said, "is a list of the other debts. The 6 credit cards you co-signed, Dad, the ones you didn't tell me about, the ones Leo used to lease a car and buy cryptocurrency." My father's face went from pale to a ghostly, mottled gray. He looked at Susan, horrified. You told me those were for inventory." My mother's face went rigid. "It was for inventory, Richard. He needed things." "He needed a trip to Miami, apparently," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "He needed a new set of golf clubs. He needed to pay for the Pin High Invitational at his club." What are you talking about?" Susan stammered. "I'm talking about the golf tournament," I said. "The one you chose over my wedding, the one you lied about. I saw the photos, Mom, while I was in my wedding dress, while I was wondering if you were dead in a ditch. You were smiling, holding a trophy." Susan gasped, her hand flying to her chest. "That's not. We didn't. It was a mistake, a horrible mistake. How can you be so cruel bringing that up now? We are talking about family." "I am talking about family," I shot back. "I'm talking about how you've sacrificed this family, this house, everything my father worked for him, for a lie. A lifestyle that doesn't exist." "He's our son," Susan shrieked, slamming her hand on the table. "He's your brother. He's He's creative, he's sensitive, this stress. It's not good for him. He's a con man, I said, the words landing like stones in the silent room. He's not sensitive. He's a 29-year-old man who has been committing fraud, and he used you both to do it. Lucy, please, my father whispered. He looked broken. He's your brother, just pay them, pay the lenders. We can sort out the credit cards later. Just save the house, please. I looked at my father, the man who had enabled this, the man who had signed his own financial death warrant, and I felt a sliver of pity, but it wasn't enough. No, I said. Susan stopped mid-rant. What did you say? I said no, I repeated, turning to her. I am the trustee of Grams's will. Her will was explicit, prudent advancement. Tom, would you agree that using a protected trust to pay off predatory lenders for fraudulent debts incurred by a 30-year-old man is prudent? Tom cleared his throat. It would be the definition of imprudent. It would be a severe breach of your fiduciary duty. You could, in fact, be held liable by the other potential beneficiaries, namely, any children you or your brother might have. My mother's jaw dropped. So no, I said, standing up. The trust will not be bailing Leo out. The trust will not be saving the house. The trust, as of today, is sealed. I looked at my parents. You made your choice. You chose his golf tournament. You chose his lies. You chose him over and over, and now he's all yours. I turned to Michael. Let's go. We walked out of the room, leaving my two parents sitting in a silent, expensive boardroom, the reality of their ruin finally, terribly clear. The non-stop calls from the title? That wasn't an exaggeration. It began before we even got to the car. My phone, which I'd left on silent, was a solid, vibrating brick in my purse. When we got home, I looked. 37 missed calls, all from my mother. The voicemails were a spectacular, escalating symphony of human desperation. The first few were weeping. Lucy, you can't mean this. You've misunderstood. Please call me. We can fix this. Then came the anger. You ungrateful. After everything we've done for you, we raised you, we paid for your college. A lie, I'd had scholarships and worked 2 jobs. Your grandmother would be ashamed of you. You're a monster. Then came the bargaining. Okay. Just the house, Lucy. Forget the credit cards. Just pay the lenders. Your father. He's not well. His heart. You're giving your father a heart attack. Then came the threats. I'm going to tell everyone. I'm going to tell your new in-laws what a horrible, selfish person you are. You will be ruined. I listened to them all, one after the other, my face blank. Michael sat next to me, holding my hand, his knuckles white. This is insane, he muttered. This is pathological. This is my mother, I said. This is the water I've been swimming in my whole life. I just never realized it was poison. My father left only one message. It was short, his voice thick. Lucy, please, I'll do anything. I'll pay you back. I promise. I can't lose your mother. I can't be homeless. Please, daughter, please. That one hurt, but it wasn't enough to change my mind. It was the plea of a man who was sorry he got caught, not sorry for what he'd done. And then, the rarest of all occurrences, a text from Leo, the first direct communication since before the wedding. Heard you decided to ruin my life. Th Hex. Guess I know where I stand. Hope happy with new family. I laughed, a short, sharp, bitter sound. He's worried I've ruined his life, I said to Michael, showing him the text. Michael shook his head. He has no idea, does he? He thinks this is just sibling rivalry. He thinks he's the main character, I said. He thinks I'm just a supporting role who went off script. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and blocked their numbers, all of them. The next morning, the calls started again. From a blocked number, it was my mother. "Stop hanging up on me," she screamed the second I answered. "Mom," I said, my voice tired. Michael was beside me making coffee. He put the phone on speaker. "I have nothing left to say." "You have everything left to say. The bank," they called Lucy. "The foreclosure is final. We have 30 days, 30 days. You are putting your parents out on the street. For what? Because we missed a party." The word party broke something in me. All the sadness, all the years of quiet hurt, solidified into a single, sharp point of anger. "It was my wedding," I said, my voice dropping. "It wasn't a party. It was the most important day of my life, and you didn't miss it, you skipped it." "He needed us," she shrieked. "It was a big day for his career, his sponsors. They were there. It was a very important tournament." There it was, the irrefutable proof, the final confession. "His career," I repeated, my voice flat. "Mom, Maria, my accountant, she found everything. There are no sponsors. There is no lifestyle brand. The Pin High Invitational wasn't a tournament. It was a promotional event for a crypto scam he'd bought into. He wasn't winning a trophy. He was hosting a last-ditch effort to lure in other suckers. He didn't need you. He needed props. He needed his proud parents to look legitimate." A long, cold, terrible silence crackled on the line. I had, for the first time in my life, stunned my mother into silence. "She found—" "What?" Susan whispered. "I know about the credit cards, Mom. I know about the forged signatures on the loan against the house. I know about the leased car. I know about the trips. I know everything." "You haven't been calling me to save your family," I continued, the words coming fast and clean. "You've been calling me to fix your ATM. That's all I am to you. I'm the backup plan, the safety net, the boring one who would just clean up the mess. Well, I'm not cleaning it up this time. I am not setting myself on fire to keep you warm. Not anymore." I could hear her breathing, a ragged, sharp gasp. She was trying to find a new angle, a new manipulation, but I didn't give her the chance. "I am the trustee, Mom, and as the trustee, I am protecting Grams's money from a con man, and as your daughter, I'm protecting myself from you." "Lucy, no, you don't mean." "Goodbye, Mom," I said. I hung up. I took a deep breath. The air in my apartment felt different, lighter. I looked at my phone. I saw the blocked number. And then I did something I should have done a decade ago. I powered it down, walked to my desk, and took out the SIM card. I went to the store that afternoon and got a new number. I gave it to Michael, to my work, to my friends. My old life and the family that came with it was, as of that moment, unreachable. The showdown, when it came, was not in a boardroom. It was not over the phone. It was, in a twist of beautiful, tragic irony, on the front lawn of the house I grew up in. 2 months had passed. 2 months of silence. My new phone number was a fortress. I'd heard through Tom, my lawyer, that the bankruptcy was proceeding. The foreclosure was final. The date was set for the estate auction. "You don't have to go," Michael said, the morning of. He was holding my new white coffee mug, the steam rising in the morning light. "I know," I said. "I'm not going to bid. I don't want any of it." "Then why go?" "To close the book," I whispered. "I need to see it. I need to see the end." He nodded. He understood. He put on his jacket and held the door for me. The house looked smaller than I remembered. The lawn was overgrown. A large, garish yellow auction sign was hammered into the grass near the mailbox. There was a small crowd. Neighbors, mostly. Vultures, all of them, picking through the boxes of my family's life that had been unceremoniously dumped on the driveway. And then I saw them, my family. They were standing near the garage as if they were guests at a party they didn't want to be at. My father, Richard, looked deflated. He was wearing an old, rumpled polo shirt and his face was gray. My mother, Susan, was wearing oversized sunglasses and a ridiculous, wide-brimmed hat, as if she were a celebrity trying to avoid the paparazzi. She was fooling no one. And Leo, he was leaning against the garage door, his arms crossed, tapping angrily on his phone. He looked thinner, meaner. The easy charisma was gone, replaced by a sullen, childish pout. They hadn't seen us. We stood at the back of the crowd near the street. "All right, folks," the auctioneer shouted, his voice metallic through a cheap megaphone. "We're starting with the household goods. Let's move inside." As the crowd surged forward, Susan turned, her head swiveled. The sunglasses scanned the crowd, and then they locked on me. Her mouth, painted in a garish red, dropped open. For a second, I thought she might faint. Instead, she did the only thing she knew how to do. She attacked. She marched across that lawn, her heels sinking slightly into the grass, a woman possessed. "You," she hissed, her voice loud enough to carry. The neighbors paused. "You came. How dare you? How dare you show your face here?" She was close now. I could smell her perfume, a cloying, sweet scent I'd always hated. "Are you here to gloat?" she shrieked, her voice cracking. "Are you here to bid, to buy my dining room table?" I stood my ground. Michael put a hand on the small of my back, but he didn't step in. This was my fight. "I'm not here to bid, Susan," I said. I used her first name. It landed like a physical slap. Her body jerked, and the neighbors murmured. "I'm just here," I said, my voice clear and calm, "to see this through." Leo, hearing the commotion, finally looked up from his phone. He saw me, and his face contorted in a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. "This is your fault," he yelled, stalking towards us. He jabbed a finger in my face. You're a psycho. You did all this. You ruined us. All because we missed your stupid party." And that was the moment. The word party hung in the air. A new voice, hoarse and broken, cut through. A party? It was my father. He had shuffled forward, his eyes for the first time clear. He wasn't looking at me. He was staring at Leo. "It was her wedding, you idiot," Richard whispered. "Your sister's wedding, and you—" He turned to Leo, his gaze flat. "You lied to me. You said it was a one-time investment meeting at the club. You said the bank was a misunderstanding. You told me she said she'd help." He turned his gaze to my mother. "And you knew, and you let him. You told me I was the one who got the date mixed up." "He's our son, Richard," Susan shrieked, her defense a reflex. "He needed us." "He's a con man," my father said, the words loud and clear in the sudden silence. The crowd was rapt. "He's a 30-year-old con man, and we're his fools." "Richard," Susan gasped, grabbing his arm. "Stop it, you're making a scene." He shook her off. He looked at her, truly looked at her, and the last shred of loyalty in his eyes died. "No, Susan," he said. "He's a con man, and you're his manager." He turned away from them. He turned away from the house, from the life he had built and lost. He walked slowly to the curb, and he sat down, his head in his hands, a broken old man on the edge of his own ruin. The auctioneer, sensing the family drama had reached its terrible climax, cleared his throat. "All right, folks, a little excitement. Let's start the bidding on the living room set. Who'll give me 500? Leo stood frozen, exposed, his psycho sister and his idiot father having just publicly detonated his entire world. Susan let out a single terrible sob, a sound of pure animal grief. I looked at Michael. He looked at me. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel joy. I just felt done. I turned and we walked away. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The book was closed. 6 months later, I was in a new home. It wasn't a large house. It was a bright, airy condo on the other side of the city, one that Michael and I had picked out together. We were painting the guest room a soft, hopeful yellow. The silence from my old life had been absolute. I'd heard about the aftermath, not through any family grapevine, that I had come to realize had never really existed, but through my lawyer, Tom. He had called me once to finalize the trust's accounting for the year. The house had sold at auction, but for far less than they owed the lenders. The bankruptcy was finalized. My parents, Richard and Susan, had lost everything. Tom told me that my father had, to his credit, gotten a part-time job as a greeter at a local hardware store. It was the first job he'd had in years that wasn't just managing Leo's potential. He'd used his first paycheck to put a deposit on a small, one-bedroom rental apartment. My mother, Susan, had not been so lucky. Her part-time real estate career, which had been more about social status than sales, was over. Without the house, without the money, without the image, she had nothing to sell. The last Tom had heard, she was working as a receptionist at a dental clinic. And Leo, my golden boy brother, his investors had not been as forgiving as my father. The crypto scam had turned out to be a mail fraud scam, and when the other investors, the ones he'd scammed at the golf tournament, had realized their money was gone, they had gone not to a civil lawyer, but to the district attorney. With no family money for a high-powered defense, Leo had been forced to take a plea deal. He was currently serving an 18-month sentence in a low-security federal prison for fraud. I hung up the phone with Tom and I felt nothing, not joy, not vindication, just a quiet, hollow sadness for the family I should have had. "You okay?" Michael asked, coming up behind me and wrapping his arms around my waist. "Yeah," I said, leaning back into his solid, warm chest. "I'm okay." My reconciliation wasn't with them, it was with myself, and it was with Michael. After the auction, after the dust had settled, Michael had suggested something. "We never got a real wedding," he'd said. "We got a crisis. I want a wedding. With you." So 3 months later, we'd had a re-wedding. It was on a beach at sunset. There were only 20 people. Michael's parents, his siblings, my 2 best friends from college. My maid of honor, Sarah, stood beside me again. And Michael's father, a kind, sturdy man, was the one who walked me down the sandy aisle. The front pew was just a line of chairs on the beach, and it was full. It was full of people who had chosen to be there, people who loved us, people who had shown up. When I'd said my vows this time, my voice hadn't trembled. I wasn't the next Saturday girl. I was the right now woman. Now in our new home, I was putting together a photo album. Not from the first wedding, I'd thrown those photos out. This album was from the beach. I pasted a picture of our new front pew. My new family. My phone buzzed on the table. It was an email, not from a blocked number, but from Tom. "Ms. Harrison," it read, "just a quarterly update. The trust's value has increased 4%. As per our discussion, the first check from the Graham's Memorial Scholarship has been awarded to a promising young pharmacy student at the local university. Congratulations, you're doing a good thing." I smiled. I had used my grandmother's legacy. Not to enable a con man, but to build a future. Not to clean up a mess, but to create an opportunity. I looked at the picture in the album. I thought about the girl in the yellow room we were painting, the one we were hoping to have one day. "What are you smiling at?" Michael asked, kissing my temple. "Just the future," I said. I felt a pang for the brother, the mother, the father I had lost. But it was like mourning a distant memory, a life that had belonged to someone else. The peace I felt, the profound, unshakable peace of a life finally my own, was so much stronger. I was free.